Hi everybody. This video is going to go over chapters 3 and 4 for Jekyll and Hyde. So chapter 3, if you are following me, is on page 17 in your book. It is very short, but it is just going over the living will that we were talking about the last chapter. So if you don't remember, Jekyll had a will that Utterson put together. Utterson is his lawyer, and it says, if Jekyll dies or disappears for three or more months, all possessions in estate will be given to Mr. Hyde. So that's kind of a peculiar thing to put in your will. So I'm just going to go over briefly what happens in chapter 3. Utterson starts asking questions. He's like, that will that you wrote, it just seems really strange to me. And Jekyll says, Utterson, you are unfortunate in such a client. I never saw a man so distressed as you were by my will, unless it were that hidebound pedant Lanyon, that what he called my scientific heresies. So if you go back, we talked about foreshadowing. This is definitely some interesting foreshadowing going on here. Please add this to your notes if you haven't done so. Foreshadowing is basically clues that indicate something is going to happen later in the text. So here we could probably say, well, there's something going on with this will. We don't really know what, but he has such great interest in this friend, this guy, Mr. Hyde, that we don't know why he would leave all of his estate to him. Why is he even writing a will? What is he concerned about, right? So chapter 3 is basically Jekyll saying, whatever happens to me, take care of Hyde and make sure that he gets what he wants. Now, there's one guy he references, and that is Lanyon. We haven't gone over Lanyon yet, and we will a little bit later, but just know that they had a falling out. They did not agree on something. He's another doctor, and they did not agree. Chapter 4, I'm on page 20. So again, there are no chapter numbers. It's just the title. Like this one is the Carew murder case. 1 year has passed since the will conversation. So this is nearly a year later in the month of October. They start introducing us to this maid, and she's looking out of her window. Now, one thing I'm going to show you, let's see if I can show you this picture, is the houses in London. I don't know how to move my webcam. Maybe I can just drag a photo over real quick. Here, we'll do this. The houses in London are close together. Okay, so they kind of look like this. There's no space like you have in American houses where like you've got a backyard, you can run around. So they're talking about this maid, and she's looking out her window. It's the middle of the night. The moon is full. Foreshadowing, right? The moon is full. So I'm just going to go back here. That tells us that because it's nighttime and the moon is out and we have a full moon, usually there's some kind of eerie presence, right? You hear full moon with werewolves, whatnot. So you have this young maid, and the maid looks out her window. So she's at her balcony in her window, and she's looking down, and she sees this aged, beautiful gentleman with white hair drawing near along the lane. Advancing to meet him, another very small gentleman. So you've got old man and a smaller guy, and they're kind of walking towards each other on the street. When they came within speech, the older man bowed and accosted the other, so like cursing the other person, with a very pretty manner of politeness. It did not seem as if the subject of his address were of great importance. So we're going on, and you learn that the shorter fellow attacks the old man. He grabs his cane and he beats him very violently. He had a hand in a heavy cane in which he was trifling. He never a word. He seemed to listen with an ill-contained impatience, and all of a sudden broke out in a great flame of anger, stamping his foot, brandishing the cane, and carrying on, as the maid described it, like a madman. Mr. Hyde broke out of all bounds and clubbed him to the earth. So he kills him. And they kind of describe this violent attack. And there's even one point where they compare Hyde's attack to that of being like an animal. So we talk about social Darwinism and the theory of evolution. This is kind of that lingering fear that people have during this time period. So it's not until a couple of hours later, it's 2 o'clock, when she came to herself and called for the police. The stick which the deed had been done, although it was some rare and very tough, heavy wood, had been broken, and it was on the ground. So this is an interesting scenario, right? I kind of laid it all out here easily for you to read. As the police come to the scene, there's also Mr. Utterson that comes to the scene. Okay. So I'll let you read a little bit about that, and make sure you get these notes down. What I want you to get from this is the characteristics of Mr. Hyde are very unusual, and the weather kind of plays a significant factor. So I'm going to go back to that thing on foreshadowing and kind of connect it to mood here. So I would like for you to add this to your notes. Mood is the feeling or atmosphere that a writer creates for the reader. So in chapter 4, we talk about the full moon and the lingering fog. That fog is kind of a hint or a clue to some sort of evil approach that's going to happen, right? The next moment, fog settled down upon that part as brown umber and cut him off blackguardly surroundings. Again, it's going to bring us back to Hyde's character with these poor weather conditions. Okay, so make sure you add these to your notes for chapter 3 and 4.